The Celtics, who are 34-19 on the year, they've won 5 out of 6, 10 out of 14, number 2 in the NBA this year in offensive rating, number 9 in defensive rating. I thought the Celtics might be better than people anticipated this year, Drew. We did our podcast every week during the summer, me, you, and Chris Forsberg, and our guests, the off season. And we kind of talked about what the Celtics could look like this year. We all thought there's a chance they could be better. But this good, this great, it's hard to believe to me that they've been this sensational this year. Have they exceeded your expectations, Drew?
Well, KOC, I'm glad you brought up the off season, and that's off apostrophe CSON, because folks can go back and find the archive. Tape exists where I was a huge Celtics homer in the off season, and I did expect them to be pretty good. And it's not just because, you know, I'm a green teamer and I've got the pom-poms out. Obviously, I want the team to do well. I like the guys on the team. My job is more fun as a play-by-play guy when the team is good. So I have all these reasons to want the Celtics to be good, but I legitimately did think that they would exceed expectations this year. But I'm with you. I didn't expect them to be this good. 15 games over in early February, competing for a 2 seed in the East. Even I didn't see that coming. I thought they would be solid, you know, have a chance to compete for a top 6 seed just because of the winning DNA. With guys like Derek White having an increased offensive role. We've always kind of wanted to see what that would look like here in Boston. Obviously, you know, Jaylen Brown has been the big story of the season. He's a top 5 MVP candidate. I thought with a more elevated offensive role for him, he would step up to that. But even still, it's just one of those things, KOC, where we just hadn't seen it. We haven't seen Jaylen Brown be the unquestioned alpha dog on this team. Thought it was in there, just hadn't seen it. We hadn't seen Derek White succeed as a number 2 option. Thought it was in there, hadn't seen it. Peyton Pritchard in the starting lineup for most of the year, hadn't seen that yet. And then the big thing is the front court. I mean, that was the biggest cause for concern going into the year, is you're entering with 2 bigs on minimum deals. Neemias Queta starting as a guy who got waived by Sacramento, of all teams, a couple of years ago. Luka Garza as your backup big, a guy who didn't get much run at all in Detroit and then Minnesota for the last 3 years. And they've both been excellent. So I guess it's not all that surprising that they're good, but this good is a little bit of a surprise.
This good, and the fact is that they have a plus 4.1 net rating with Jaylen Brown on the floor. Not the biggest surprise in the world, but they have a plus 14.3 net rating when Jaylen Brown is off the floor. So the team has been good with Jaylen Brown out there, but they've been good regardless of who's been out there. And I thought their win against the Rockets last week was the most telling victory, really putting that into perspective. Queta, Garza, Ron Harper Jr., Baylor Shireman, Derek White start that game, and they blow out the Rockets 114-93. The Baylor Shireman defending Kevin Durant and everybody on that team playing Mazulla ball. The effort doesn't drop. The style of play doesn't change. It's just remarkable to me that it seems like regardless of who Boston is throwing out there, they continue to play their style of basketball, their brand of basketball, and playing it at a very high level. I thought that game was very telling for the character of this team overall, Drew.
That one was as good as it gets. That was one where the Celtics are on the second night of a back-to-back. They had just played in Dallas the previous night. Good win, pretty hard-fought game. It's Cooper Flagg's first game against the Celtics, the team he grew up cheering for. So that took some serious effort to get that win. And then the next night in Houston, the Celtics have played the Rockets twice this year on the second night of a back-to-back. The first one was in Boston. It was early in the season where we still didn't really know what to expect from this team. And they got smoked. That was the worst game they played all year. They lost by 27, most lopsided loss of the season. So you go into Houston on the second night of a back-to-back, and you're thinking, I don't really know what to expect. Then Jaylen gets scratched. Hauser is out. Simons had just been traded. Vucevic wasn't there yet. So you look at the starting 5, and you said it. I mean, Luka Garza makes his second start as a Celtic. Ron Harper Jr. on a 2-way makes his first NBA start ever. Baylor Shireman's in the starting lineup. You're thinking this could get ugly. But having followed the team for, at that point, 50 games, I said, we really don't see them lay eggs in an entire game. They'll have a rough quarter or rough half. But really, outside of that first game against Houston, they have not had a stinker for an entire 48 minutes. So I thought, you know what? There's a chance here that they surprise some people. Houston obviously has their own issues, but they're still a nightmare to play on night 2 of a back-to-back because they're the best rebounding team in the league and they're super physical and they tend to play hard. We didn't really see that against the Celtics in that game, but the Celtics went in there and just took their lunch money. And Ron Harper legitimately outplayed Kevin Durant in his first NBA start. This two-way guy in his first NBA start outplayed KD. The entire group of Celtics who played in that game, I think 11 guys combined, makes less money this season than Kevin Durant does. And they won that game
crazy.
By 20 plus on the second night of back-to-back. So that probably was the most impressive win of the season. And then a couple nights ago, they back it up. They're down by 20 against Miami at halftime. And I'm just thinking about what I just said. We don't see this team have a clunker for an entire game, really ever. And so they started to build a little momentum in the third quarter. Pritchard sort of took that game over in the third. JB comes back in the fourth, and they ended up winning against Miami after trailing by 21 at half. You just see the DNA show up all the time because legitimately, KOC, it sounds reductive to say this, but they do play hard every night. They really do, which is not always the case in the NBA. You see, I mean, you watch League Pass. Tim Legler was just talking about this the other night.
Oh, yeah.
The reason you see some crazy results in the NBA is because you don't get consistent effort from everybody every night. The Celtics are rare in that sense.
Absolutely, 100% true. Legs was spot on when he talked about that. Sometimes these teams, the lack of effort, the amount of tanking teams there are right now in the NBA as well, there's teams that want to lose going in. And Boston very well could have been one of those teams to say, you know what? We're not going to game plan this year. We're going to tank like the Pacers are and just try to get a high pick this year without Jayson Tatum. And yet, like you said, they are one of those teams that never takes a night off. And there's a great moment. I'm pretty sure it was during that comeback against the Heat when they started having the comeback, but Hugo Gonzalez fighting for the ball, wrestling with the ball with Norman Powell. It was just a fun little moment of many great moments Gonzalez has had during his rookie year this year. But I love that moment during that game.
Well, it was great because you'll see it in the clip. Norman Powell looks at him and says, "What's up? What's up? Like, what are you going to do about it?" Norman Powell's a tough guy. Okay, so Norman Powell is a guy who it would be totally understandable for a guy who had just turned 20, hasn't really accomplished much in the NBA, to back down from there. But Ugo was not going to do that. And the kid didn't do anything wrong. It's not like he was trying to start a fight. It was just emblematic of how hard the Celtics played night to night. By the way, on Hugo Gonzalez, I'm not sure people around the NBA or maybe casual fans realize just how impactful he's been because his counting stats are not high. He plays about 15 minutes a game. But he is on pace to have the best plus-minus per game of a rookie in NBA history. The record currently belongs to Tim Duncan. Did he have a good rookie season or what? So Hugo Gonzalez is on pace to have an equal or even greater impact in terms of raw plus-minus. Of course, there's a lot of noise in that stat. It's not perfect. But when he comes in, he impacts winning because he plays super hard. He's a decent shooter. His energy on the offensive glass and defensively is off the charts. And he is just one of many guys, one of many cogs in this wing rotation. We just talked about Ron Harper Jr. Baylor Shireman's been in the starting lineup. Josh Minott, who just got salary dumped in a trade, was starting for the Celtics for a 10-game span at the start of the season. Then Jordan Walsh came in, and ever since then, which was in mid-November, they've had the best record in the NBA. Jordan Walsh has sort of fluctuated in the rotation. Then Hauser's been starting. He's been shooting the heck out of the ball. Ron Harper Jr. is now playing. Shireman's now in the starting lineup. It's like, where do they find these guys, KOC? It's like there's a tree at the Auerbach Center where Brad is watering it and putting his magic pixie dust on it. And then Joe comes in and says, yeah, it looks like they're ready to go. You're starting. You're guarding Kevin Durant, or you're going to start and you're going to get 15 shots tonight. It's just amazing because those are the most valuable guys in the league, those athletic wings who can play on both sides of the floor. And the Celtics just seem to manufacture them. It's amazing.
And then they just traded Chris Boucher and got John Tonje back in the deal. And Tonje hasn't played yet for Boston, but he's a guy I really liked in the draft. He's an upperclassman, tough, hard-nosed wing. He can hit threes, do a little bit off the dribble as well. And it's like Tonje is part of what I thought was a pretty good draft class for the Utah Jazz. He's not the biggest name that they got, but they trade him. Boston gets him. It's not going to surprise me if Tonje suddenly all of a sudden has a good game for Boston when you're seeing Ron Harper Jr. have good nights. You're going to have Max Shulga probably have good nights for Boston at some point. And like you said, at one point it's Jordan Walsh. It feels like he's going to be a big part of the rotation. And then it's Baylor Shireman. The fact that Mazulla is having a coach of the year quality year from a win standpoint, from a success standpoint, but also from a developmental standpoint. How does he juggle player development with winning games and the way that he has. Truly, I remember like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I thought of his first year when he took over for Ime Udoka. One of the takes I got wrong the most was I thought Mazulla should have been fired after that year. I thought Mazulla had a poor feel for timeouts. I thought he had a poor feel for rotations, and I didn't give enough grace and time to the fact that this was a guy who got thrown in when Udoka got let go, and eventually, he goes to Houston, but he got let go by Boston. And Mazulla, I didn't think he was good that year. And that summer, somebody with Boston said to me, they're like, we still think he could become the best coach in the NBA. And 3 years later, since that happened, he's obviously won a championship. We're seeing him coach the hell out of this Celtics team right now without Jayson Tatum, with a bunch of young guys in and out of the rotation. Yeah, he very well might be the best coach in the NBA, and he definitely should be the leading candidate for coach of the year. I'm just amazed at the balance, his ability to win games and put lineups out there and put players in positions to succeed while also developing this young talent, Drew. It blows my mind seeing what Boston's doing.
Well, first of all, the great thing about Joe is the guy who cares the least about that award is him. So I honestly, first of all, I hope he wins it just because I think he deserves it. And, I see him before every game and I really like the guy. I think he's fascinating. So I want him to win for a bunch of reasons. But number one might be I want to see his reaction to winning that award. Because they're going to force him to do some type of video or some type of
throw it in the trash, Drew. He might throw it in the dumpster.
It's just going to be hysterical when he gets that award. He's going to find some way to, slice it up and evenly divide it to the coaching staff and the players. He will deflect the praise, but I really don't think it's lip service with him. I do think he is a service-based leader. And a lot of that comes from his faith. But what you just brought up is spot on with balancing player development while still winning. Like playing Ron Harper Jr. in his first NBA start is not because the Celtics are thinking about the future. It's because they're trying to win that game, a game that we just talked about where they were a huge underdog. You brought up Max Shulga, who's this, two-way rookie who is one of the last picks in the draft. He made his NBA debut in that Houston game. And before the game, I was on the court and they were in the layup line. And, the Celtics were down a couple of guys. I thought there was a chance this game could get out of hand. So I just went up to Max before the game. I said, hey, just confirming, how do you say your last name? Because you'll hear Shulga a lot, like especially in his college career, you heard Shulga. He was like, it's Shulga. I'm like, okay, that's what I thought. Just making sure it's Shulga. Because I was thinking in the back of my mind, like, we might get run off the floor tonight and they might throw him in and it'll be his NBA debut. Like, we got to be ready for that. Turns out a team did get run off the floor that night. It just wasn't the Celtics. That's what they did to the Rockets. And Max Shulga ended up playing in that game for the first time. But just going back to Joe, it's not, like we talk all the time about pushing the right buttons, like hitting the button to put Jordan Walsh in the starting lineup, hitting the button to give Baylor Shireman more run, hitting the button to put Sam Hauser in there, now playing double big with Keita next to Garza. That was a starting lineup, which we saw for the first time in that Houston game we talked about. Now trading for Vucevic, I think we're going to see even more of that, him playing alongside those two centers who have been here all season. But it's not just about pushing the right buttons. It's really about instilling belief in everybody that your time is coming. If you think about, everybody listening to this, I'd like you to think about in your line of work or maybe going back to school, if you were told over and over again, your opportunity is coming, be ready. It's coming, be ready. And then 2-3 months go by and you never get the call. Are you really going to stay ready? Are you actually going to be ready when that time finally comes? I think the answer is probably no. If a lot of us look in the mirror and say, would I actually do what I need to do to stay ready, even though there's no evidence that that opportunity is coming? Somehow, Joe and his staff, and Craig Lucianot is the director of player development. He's part of a coaching staff that, and you know how it is, KOC. There are a bunch of guys on these coaching staffs now. They fill up 2 rows of the bench. Every single guy on that staff has a role. Joe talks about how everybody is a head coach of their own role. That goes for the players, that goes for the coaches, trainers, sports science guys, everybody in the front office. They have managed to take all this stuff that sounds like corporate synergy BS and actually apply it, because you see it every night with how hard the team plays and how these guys you've never even heard of can be plugged into the starting lineup and lock up Kevin Durant.
It's insane. And I just appreciate the fact that they, like you said, they put guys into positions to succeed. They make them believe, but then they bring in new guys. And Vooch, his first game with Boston, he logged 8 post-ups in that game. That's the most of any Celtic this entire season in his first game. And the Celtics had, I believe, 7 post-ups in their loss against the Knicks on Sunday. And that was the second most for the team the entire year after his debut against Miami. And not all those plays were highly successful for Boston. Some of them were. But just immediately bringing in this guy Vooch and tweaking the offense to add a new layer to what you're going to do in the half court, making it happen overnight. It's little things like that that just are impressive overall. And Vooch ultimately is going to add a new ingredient here with his spacing as a three-point shooter, the post play, and the fact he's just a reliable vet as a decision maker. And so I think for the Celtics, it was a home run acquisition for them. Vooch could not be in a better situation than he is in Boston. And like you said, you can play him next to Kata, considering the fact he can space the floor. You could play him out there alone as well. Just adds a whole new layer to this Celtics team that I thought that they were missing.
Yeah, the first thing you notice about Vucevic, and I got a chance to meet him real quick before the game the other night, is he's huge. I mean, it's easy to forget this, but he's massive. He's 6'10", and when he shakes your hand, you feel like you have a raccoon paw for a hand. That's how someone else described it to me, and then I actually shook his hand. I felt that way. As the late, great Tommy Heinsohn would say, he is all of Montenegro. The guy's massive, okay? And so he will take you down to the block. He's an efficient post-up scorer, but really it's his shooting and his spacing that he provides. And the other thing, KOC, is his passing is excellent. He had 4 assists in his first game as a Celtic. You saw a couple of plays there where he would set a screen, he'd pop, obviously commands a lot of attention with his shooting, and then his vision is great. Those guys who we talked about, those wings, the stay ready group who play super hard every night, they'll cut, and Vucevic will find them, whether it's off a pick and pop or off a post-up. You just have to respect him as a scorer, which is going to open up so many lanes where he can use that great vision. And if you think about that aspect of his game, it's only going to get better as he gets more comfortable with his teammates and vice versa. That was in his first game with the team, and it already felt like he had a pretty good feel for the guys and the cutting and the spacing. It does feel a little bit like when the Celtics added Kristaps Porzingis, and he was a huge pick and pop threat, but also a threat when he sets a screen and you switch, he will punish a mismatch. And that's going to lead to either him scoring if you play it one-on-one and he's against a smaller guy, or an opportunity if you bring a double where Vucevic is a really good passer. And that's going to make the team a lot better. And I really like the double big set. When he was in Chicago and they played him next to Jalen Smith, that was super effective. They had got like 58% of available rebounds, and both of those guys can shoot. If you play him with Garza, that's going to be the case. You play him with Kata, gives you extra rim protection. I just think it's going to really work out. As much as I miss Anthony Simons, and I do miss Anthony Simons, and we're going to see him against Chicago here in a couple of days, I do think it was the right move to kind of balance out the roster.
100% was. I thought there was a bit of overlap with Simons and Pritchard, and made sense to bring in Vooch. It was one of the needs for Boston. It was having too big flexibility, or Vooch could be out there as the solo big. And ultimately, they needed to get a center. They got a center. And in order to actually be a championship contender, they're going to have to get Jayson Tatum back. And Shams Charania reported over the weekend that Tatum has started controlled 5-on-5 scrimmages. Drew, when is Tatum coming back? What's the date? Give us the exact date when Tatum's coming back.
Second Tuesday of next week. You heard it here first. Look, I don't know, KOC. They don't tell me anything. I don't think they tell anybody anything. I honestly don't even know if internally there is a target date, or if JT even knows when he's going to play. To be completely honest, the reporting about him having second thoughts of coming back, I don't know where that came from. I never really bought it. As far as I know, there has not been a setback medically in terms of his rehab. I know he's been doing everything possible to come back as soon as he can. And yes, that might be this season. I've thought from the jump that he's going to play. And that's just my gut feeling based on a couple of things. Number one, he's been with the team the entire season. He's been traveling everywhere. It's not just at home games. Jayson Tatum is on the bench for road games. To me, that's a sign that he wants to stay connected to the group. And I think that goes beyond just being a good teammate. I actually think that he wants to play games alongside the guys he's been sitting next to all season. The other thing is he's been very public about his recovery. This has not been entirely behind closed doors. He has put stuff on his own social media. he has worked out in front of media after a shoot around in Detroit not too long ago. And he has put it out there that he's getting closer. Again, it's all relative. So he's getting closer. It might be from point A to point B, and he's got to get to point Z before he comes back. But it also might be he's got to get to point C, and there aren't that many steps left for him to clear. The team will talk about thresholds he needs to hit in his recovery, and there are a lot of those check marks. But one of them certainly is playing 5-on-5. So I don't know how close he really is. I don't know if he's going to play at all this season. But I'll just say I've all year thought that he's going to try to play this season, and nothing has changed my mind on that.
100%. I don't think anything has deterred me from feeling like he's going to play. And for Boston to be in this position without him is just mind-blowing at this point. I would expect sometime after the All-Star break, we're going to see Tatum out there. What's going to happen, Drew? I've said it all year in the podcast. Every day the Celtics put out their injury report, there's going to be a day that Tatum is listed as questionable. Out of nowhere, that's how it's going to be announced. That's my prediction, that it's just going to be doubtful or questionable Jayson Tatum and his Achilles recovery. That's what's going to happen. And then you'll get probably the Instagram posts and all that from Tatum after that. But ultimately, it's going to be cool when it happens, if it happens. Hopefully it happens, that we see Tatum return. And then we're going to see him integrate into this team that has been absolutely sensational. Jaylen Brown having a great year, as you said. He's going to probably have to take a slight step back, which is a good thing. Ultimately, he's playing with such a dramatically high usage this year, and he's been tremendous with doing it, but you don't want him to have to carry that load for all year long, and Jayson Tatum will absolutely help there for the Celtics. And ultimately, look, I placed a small bet early in the year, Drew, or for Boston to win the championship, because it was like plus 5,000. I'm like, plus 5,000? What, 9,000? The Dragon Ball Z reference. I don't know if you know that. You're probably not as much of a nerd as I am. What, 9,000? But great odds. And it blew my mind. It's like, well, wait a minute. Tatum probably is going to try to come back at some point if this team is competitive and he checks all those boxes. So I felt good about it now. And the odds at this point, I think they're one of the 5 or top 6 teams in odds at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. It's a team that has tied for the second best record in the Eastern Conference, potentially adding a perennial first-team All-NBA player. I mean, it's like imagine at the trade deadline or a little bit after, a really good team goes out and trades for a top 5 player. That's basically what the Celtics would be doing if Jayson Tatum comes back. I will say a couple of things. His birthday is in early March. Just something to consider. His birthday is in early March. I also thought trading Anthony Simons, and I could be totally off base with this because, as we already talked about, Vucevic might be a better fit anyway, and you saved some money, and the Celtics eventually got under the luxury tax altogether. But when the Celtics traded Simons, I sort of thought, like, maybe this means Tatum's coming back, because without his ball handling, there is a bit of a void there. And how do you fix that? Just add one of the 5 best players in the NBA who can handle the ball a lot and run pick and roll. So to me, that was sort of a signal. Again, could be totally off base because there are other reasons, but I just feel like the sense I've gotten all year is that he is going to play. So hopefully we're right about that. And if he comes back, KOC, they are a legitimate contender. I mean, we've been talking all season about how wide open the Eastern Conference is, which most of the time to me is just people trying to politely say the Eastern Conference sucks. I actually don't agree with that. I think there are a lot of good teams in the East. There's no reason why we should ignore Detroit as a contender to win the East. If you watch them play, they are maybe the most physical team in the league. Yes, their shooting has been an issue at times. They added Kevin Huerter. And I think the Pistons are a legitimate Eastern Conference championship contender. The Cavs, adding James Harden, to me, makes them much scarier in the East. Obviously, the Knicks are loaded. They just beat the Celtics at the Garden handily. There are a lot of good teams in the Eastern Conference. I don't think it's like a terrible side of the NBA. But yes, if Tatum does come back, the Celtics have proven with this roster, if you add him to it, they're good enough to contend for a conference and NBA championship.
I think that is spot on, Drew. I mean, you're right about the East. It's better than expectations, and Orlando's been worse, and Philly's been better as of late as Embiid's improved. But ultimately, I think New York, Detroit, Boston, Cleveland, those are the top 4 teams right now. And we'll see if Orlando can fix themselves or if Embiid can sustain this over the course of the year. Or who knows? If the Charlotte Hornets can
don't
keep
sleep on the
winning,
Hornets. I was going to say, they might never lose again.
I know. They're 9-0 in their last 9 games. They were a 500 team shortly before that. They could be making a leap. So don't sleep on the Hornets, especially as a first round upset team if they're able to get out of the play-in. So who knows there? But yes, I do agree the East is better than anticipated, with the Celtics obviously being the team at the top of that.